They feel at the state level as well, which we're in Sacramento. But it's really municipal government that I really love, which is why I decided to leave Metro and go to Pasadena and then just coming here to the city and being able to really make an impact and change at such a large scale is a really exciting opportunity. So you're probably curious in terms of priorities and how they might align with really the purpose of great community. For me, transportation is really can be transformational in communities. And if you design it well and design in a very thoughtful and deliberate manner, that really was and my commitment is really to approach everything from a multimodal perspective. My goal, I will be upfront. I will go to people and say, you know, my goal is to get you out of your car. My goal is to give you enough options that are just as efficient, just as safe, and just as reliable, so that you have that choice and you want to get out of a car. And I think that's really an important distinction, because people don't like to be told what to do, but people like to have choices. And so that's my job, to provide those choices, those mode choices, and make sure that they're efficient, make sure that they're safe, make sure that they're reflective of the communities that we're designing for. And not every transportation solution is appropriate for every community. There's different levels of what communities are willing to accept. And so part of my job was also to walk with communities through what their options are. What the changes are and not making certain changes. So I'm really excited with the opportunity to be able to leverage a couple of international events that will be coming to the city, whether it's the Olympics, and how we can use those opportunities to really show Angelinos how to travel in ways that are different. I think we saw a little bit of that with the 10 freeway, where we saw a jump in metro ridership. I was able to work with my team in implementing something that we hadn't done in a decade, despite Metro requesting it. And then we really optimizing our traffic signals to prioritize the ADU times of the hour. And so just with that, we Metro saw travel time savings. And that's really meaningful for the person who's taking the train. When people talk about impacts to travel time, we need to remember that it's not just those that are driving, it's also those that are taking the bus, taking the train, those that are bicycling. And so really looking forward to working with my team, working with all of you, working with the council offices and the mayor's office, and finding ways to improve upon how we really truly multimodal network within the city of LA. So I'll stop there. I'm not sure if
I would like to.
I'm happy to entertain questions.
Oh, yeah.
Or how you want to handle this?
Yeah, that's a good point. Hi, Louis. How are you? Because I'd like to introduce the table, because they're very amazing people too. Let's do that, and then we'll go for questions. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Weiss. I was on the BAC for 6 years. I got involved with advocacy to get the Epical line built, the line bought back in '89. I did want to use my public comment just to remind you who wouldn't know that there was about, I have my notes, I lost about a dozen years ago, wayfinding signs were supposed to be put in. I wrote an article for Streets Volume on the board of directors of that development, right? Reminding, going through the whole timeline. So I'd like to share that with you at some point. A lot of money's been spent. When you talk about people visiting the city, they could be riding down the coast, not know how to get to the marina, county, or across town. They know what options they have. That it's 5 minutes to here or there on a bike. So that's something that's been in the hopper. I understand the baby stuff at the state, so maybe your experience at the state, you can get that stuff. Thank you.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Louis Leba. I'm the Field and Mobility Deputy for Council District 1. I want to serve on this. Thank you, Jennifer, for the invitation.
Alex Sarno, I'm a Council District 1 and a board member of the Neighborhood Council. invited by Jennifer to participate in this awesome committee and also as a transportation plan.
And I'm Dave Burkwell. I just moved to LA from, actually from an apple farm in upstate New York. But I lived in New York City for 25 years and I love City Bike and I'm a big early adopter of that and I'd love to see LA be a bike friendly city. So I would be there. Thanks for.
So does any, yes.
Was there an uptick in use of alternative transportation during the 10 debacle?
Yeah, so we saw an increase, Metro saw an increase in Metro ridership. And we saw a slight increase in our commuter express. So in response to 10, one of the things we did is we made our commuter express fare free. Through the end of the year was our commitment, and so we did see an increase in ridership there as well.
But tiny.
On commuter express, smaller, yeah. But Metro, I think the rider, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they saw pretty significant increase in ridership.
Great. Yes, Glenn.
So I know the budget advocates in our upcoming meeting will go into detail about the new budget proposal that was submitted to the mayor last month. But for this purposes of this group, if there's any, and I know you don't have a book in front of you, but if you have any big picture initiatives regarding active transportation, bicycling in particular, that you wanted to share with us, that would be helpful, and I know we can follow up because it'll be a process that's continue in April, May. And just related to that, though, it sounds like there's been some communication, but in the past, the Bicycle Advisory Committee back in the first several decades, we were housed out of the mayor's office and we were staffed by the mayor's office. And when that changed, it went to LADOT, and that worked out well for another decade or so. But at some point in time after the mid 2000s, we weren't feeling love, okay? And that's, I mentioned the website, but there were other things as well. We do appreciate the staff coming with our subcommittees. We do those during the workday, whatever, but I think part of us being more effective means maybe some more support from DOT. So that's all part of the question, but mainly about just giving us a heads up on, and we'll get a copy of the budget we'll share with folks, but if you want to give us the highlights.
So let me start with your latter point. I completely agree. One of the things that we're going to start looking at is not just the dish committee, but the committees that LADOT houses. Is really better understanding what your role is within, whether it's within the charter or it's municipal ordinance, whatever it is that is established the committee, and then be able to kind of really outline how we can work to closer and how we can support you, and also as an advisory committee, what role you as a body can play in advancing or supporting LADOT. So completely agree that there can be a stronger relationship there, and so that's something that I'm committed to looking at. In terms of budget, what I will share right now are just kind of overarching goals, and then we'll have a more in-depth conversation when we meet. Two things really stand out. One is, how do we actually start implementing infrastructure? There's a lot of funding that the department has, a lot of plans that we have underway, but I think we can all agree implementation is really lacking. And so how do we not just move the needle to implement, but also a lot of that is the internal coordination. And so what you'll see in the budget is a lot of requests that would hopefully help us in terms of staffing and technology to be able to allow us to start implementing quicker. The other is just state of good repair. It's like the stuff that's not really exciting, but is so fundamental to us being able to provide safer streets. Whether it's upgrading our technology for our traffic officers or for our transit services, securing facilities so that we can fully transition to a zero emission technology. Things that really aren't, nice and shiny, but really fundamental to us being able to do our work well and to be able to serve the community. But I'll take it a step further. One of the things that, I also will be looking at in the next couple of months and working closely with my team is digging into the Vision Zero program a lot more. Better understanding what our high energy network corridors are, what we've accomplished, what we haven't, what's been the issue, and getting certain things implemented and starting to address those issues. Some of it might be internal, some of it is a lot of interdepartmental coordination. And so my job is really to help knock down some of those doors so that we can start implementing some of them, those projects that we've identified. Yes.
I also
I'll
want,
defer to Jennifer.
No.
I also had a question about budget requests with staffing, because when I first joined in 2019 or 2020, I helped put together a Google Sheet kind of wish list of the committee. And we set up a prioritization system to say, does it already have community buy-in, or is it on the Andrew network, is it on the mobility criteria? And I think there's a lot of frustration in that even willing council offices right now are having a hard time getting projects through, let alone like this wish list. It's basically just gathered dust for 4 years, because when we meet with DOT and staff, they say we don't have the resources to even look at this. I know you're aware of this, but I'm curious how this committee could, I know the Green New Deal positions are starting to come in. I know there's some new planners now for transportation that are coming in. It should be great, but how else can we support you guys and get you the staff you need? So we can actually, we're a big complex city, but we can actually not here, wait a year, wait 2 years, we don't have resources, but actually, break the log.
I think. So in terms of staffing, I mean, the city process is what it is, and it's, I would say it's an interesting process.
Interesting, meeting slow as hell.
Yes, and so that's its own issue, right? That there's a larger conversation at the city level of how we can be more efficient and how we can attract talent and not lose them to other entities that are just more nimble. So there's kind of a larger issue. Was something that's really important for us, and I said this even in my confirmation process, is a community engagement process. And that serves a couple of different purposes. One is, I think it does a lot to encourage a community to have a sense of ownership over the project and really pride and advocacy for advocating for a project if they're really fully engaged. Two, I think it helps provide a little bit of education. As government, if you're against a certain roadway reallocation or traffic calming features, you don't want to hear that from LADOT and all our data and our stats. But you're more inclined to hear from a neighbor, a resident who's been impacted or who's really encouraged by the plans that we have. And so part of it is also an education process, so that we have almost ambassadors within the community to move the project forward. But then it's also about transparency and making sure that the community is fully aware of what our process is, what we considered, and inevitably community engagement is time consuming. It adds time to the planning process, right?
Can I give you a suggestion on the engagement part?
Sure.
We are all here as volunteers, and we all have some degree of influence or relationships within our own respective communities. The only example I can think of was Venice Boulevard, where DOT leaned on the Palms Neighborhood Council a bit. But I think you guys are pulling all of the load yourselves, and I think you could be pulling some of the load yourselves and offloading it onto people that want to help, care about this topic, and have some official role within the city.
Okay. No, I appreciate that input.
We were lucky enough to participate in a strategic planning process with the Pedestrian Advisory Board and the Bicycle Advisory Committee. And it was announced that LADOT was creating a community advisory board. I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little bit more, or if you have insights into that. Okay.
I know, are you referring to the department strategic plan? Or?
Well, no, this was a planning that happened with the BAC, the Bicycle Advisory, and then the Pedestrian Advisory. LADOT members talked about their intention to create a community advisory board, different from those two. And so wondering if you had any insights into that, or that's.
Follow up.
No worries.
Mike?
I just two comments. One, on top of the follow up with my suggestion of using the people around this table in the community, because there would be times when if my wife and I see something in the back of the line and it's near our house, or it's something we feel passionate about, we'll throw like $100 on Facebook advertisements and write a blog and shower it and give people like, you know, in this immediate area to target these people or the greater area. And so I think that's one thing we should know about. Secondly, to follow up on Jeff's suggestion of wayfinding signs, I think that's really critical. People inherently have a very terrible understanding of dimensional analysis and distance, relative distances, and the street signs, wayfinding signs can work in interesting ways, such as I walked over to McDonald's, if I saw a wayfinding sign that told me to the police station, X number of, certain distance away, then it serves as two purposes. One, it tells you how far to walk, and two, where everything is, so you can educate yourself and you can surprise yourself and maybe use next time you go, as you mentioned, not take the car away, but give the person an alternate choice. And that's kind of a low hanging fruit. When we lived in Glendale, my wife and I, there was an event that they put up wayfinding signs just for one weekend. And I contacted the mayor and said, you gotta make this really, well, because Glendale really sits on like a 2x2 mile grid, and we made videos that show you can walk and bike faster than you can drive across town. So it's very well grounded. But for here, especially when my friends came out from Kentucky, they didn't realize that you can walk along one street and hit all, walk essentially along the red line and hit all these destinations. And they had in their mind that these places were really far apart. So again, I mean, just help everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. One more?
One more.
That's it.
Several of us have been working on a motion to get the city.
That's fine.
But
Oh, but how long do you have to
I
stay?
actually need to run. I need to go pick up my kids. So,
What, right now?
after this question, I can't stay for the full meeting.
Okay,
So-
okay, but we're really happy that you,
I'm clearly jumping the queue. I apologize.
thanks for listening. I didn't even catch that.
But several of us have been working on a motion to try to get to city council on anytime a bike path is taken out, that whoever's taking it out for construction, whatever purposes, they would provide an alternative, equally safe path. A lot of people bike to work, and when paths are taken out, people are forced to go on the streets, and sometimes they get hit. So we've been trying to figure out how to get to city council a motion to eliminate that problem and to assure that who's ever doing a construction project will provide an alternative path that's equally safe. I'm not good on frustration. I've been working on this for a year and a half now, and I need someone who will help me shepherd this through. Is that something you can help with? Pretty direct.
What I would say is.
And I've got the motion.
Okay, well, that's a start, because I think, without knowing what the language in the motion
Happy to
is,
show it to you.
what's important is that it's framed in a way that is actually implementable, so.
You
Why don't
you can rewrite it, and as long as the spirit is there. So how do I reach you then?
So when
Do you have a
I will
business card?
leave some of the cards,
Great.
you can email me, and then the best thing would be, I'll probably put you in touch with our community engagement.
Just so you know, I've been put in touch with lots of people along the way, and it falls flat.
It's in my department, and
Okay.
it's direct report, so, again, I'm gonna leave you my card. And if you can follow up with me, then I'll make sure that, I put you in touch with someone who
Perfect.
can walk you through what the process would be.
Okay,
Thank you,
Right.
thank you.
Thank
being
you very
here.
much. Yeah, my pleasure.
Jeff's here too. Do you know Jeff?
Good, how are you? Let me take some of my, Jeff, maybe you go up here.
I could hand him. Like,
Why don't we just pass them down the?
yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you for
for
having
your
me.
interest.
We want to invite you back when you,
When I'm a little bit more settled.
yes, could we, like in maybe June or something?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, give me some time to get a little bit more familiarized with the department and a couple of key initiatives that I want to get underway, and hopefully I'll have something more meaningful to share
thank
in
you.
a couple months. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Why don't you, Jennifer, why don't you, or Jeff?
I have to keep the meeting going, don't I? All right. So, this is not my usual job, and we're trying to, transfer everything tonight. And thank everybody for showing up tonight. This is awesome. We have quorum. And it's good to see the valley's over here and the west side and east side's over here. So that's an interesting, you're west, yeah, you're west side. We're all, you guys are all west side. I'm east side. You're east side. You're central.
Starting to fight?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I know. It's very interesting how everybody's settled like this. It's a very interesting situation. Anyway, so, we have our welcome. We've done, we need to approve the minutes.
Why don't you do Jeff's presentation?
Well, do you,
Or do you want to?
okay.
It's your
sure.
call. It's your
Jeff-
call.
Yeah, so Jeff, Jacob Berger will be presenting on the, well, I guess it says the capital improvement
Right.
plan, and I called, Jessica Meany today. Is that the same similar plan that the, capital infrastructure plan? No, yours,
Yes,
capital,
Mitch.
your
Yeah,
investment, she's infrastructure.
So, I guess I'll start. Jeff
Sorry.
Berger, for those of you, I mean, I know many of you, right? For those who don't, know me. I'm currently the legislative director for council member Bob Littlefield. Who represents the West San Fernando Valley, neighborhoods of Tarzana, Woodland Hills, Oak Park, Winnetka, and a big chunk of Reseda. He's chair of the budget committee. Prior to working for the council member, I was chair of the bicycle advisory. 6 years or something, 7 years. It's good feedback. So, I don't have a lot of prepared remarks. I'm just happy to engage you in the discussion. I think the question was sort of, there was a motion out there to advocating for a 5-year, actually to get a longer range capital improvement plan for the city. The city actually currently has what they call a 5-year capital plan. What that mostly is just a list of projects that have been funded, like, hey, we got an ATP grant for, this project, and so it's in the plan, that it's funded. Which almost anything with funding, but it's not necessarily strategic about how it's put together. So I think there's a motion that my boss co-presented with Councilmember Hutt. There's other people I should know, don't recall which other council members. And then Jessica Meany, who's with Investing in Place, has been pushing kind of for a more serious capital improvement plan that would try to be more strategic about what investment we're going to make. And, I guess an example I would use, the department that does it well, but it's sort of unique to that department, is the Bureau of Sanitation collects sewer fees, right, from all of us who have homes and sewers, right? And they sort of know that's sort of a predictable revenue stream for them. And they sort of know, like, they run, Hyperion big sewage treatment plants and major sewer mains, and they actually have a fairly, long range plan of what investments they need to make to
approve those plans and keep them running. And so they actually, have a decent plan. It's not super transparent to council or the public. It sort of just ends up looking like a list of projects every year, but they actually go through a process where they decide what the priorities are, and council pretty much just signs off on them. The part of that is they have a dedicated, the sewer fees that they collect can only be used for sewer, so they have a dedicated revenue stream. For most of the rest of our much of the rest of our infrastructure, the city has a lot of discretion about how to spend it, and so from year to year, it's like, oh, this particular thing may be a priority, and so we don't actually create a list, sort of a wish list of all the projects we'd like to do. Determine how much of an infrastructure budget we actually need every year, and then the council and the mayor collectively as the policy-making bodies actually decide what our priorities are. So that's what these motions, and so what ends up happening is all the departments submit requests for the proposed budget, which they just recently done in the last few weeks. The mayor's office and the CAO, the city chief administrative officer, city administrative officer, sort of do their magic behind the scenes and then present the budget on or around April 20th. The council has about 3 weeks to review. So not really an opportunity for council to establish those priorities. So like I said, the motions are aiming at trying to figure out a way to actually create not just something that's called a 5-year plan, but that actually reflects some strategic decisions about what investments are. So that's the shorthand. Happy to answer any questions about that or anything else you all want to.
Yeah, so I understand the concept of a new sewage treatment plan or whatever, but in terms of infrastructure, I also understand that, replacing an old bridge with a new bridge. But in terms of active transportation infrastructure, so for example, the sidewalk issue, what is it, $1.3 billion is, or more, okay, all right, 3 billion, whatever, so, okay. I know it's a lot per year,
Right.
but,
Not for you, but anyway, yeah.
okay, I mean, in terms of what was.
Right.
But, okay, that's just an example, we're here because we're bicycle advisory. Part of what I see in terms of what I think of infrastructure is probably more like maintenance. The city funds in the budget a certain amount of money that's going to be used to resurface the streets.
Right.
And then the money that goes to DOT to restripe the streets that are resurfaced. But, so I just want to clarify if this is something above and beyond that. Just want to give you an example, and I hate to pick on specific projects, but I'm going to.
Okay, sure.
So probably about 10 years ago, it was identified that, in terms of the Reseda Boulevard Great Streets, and to complement that with Cal State University Northridge being a major draw at the time of, cycling, et cetera. And so putting a network of bicycle lanes that surround and serve the university. And so so that's been done, except on the east side of the university on Zelza Avenue.
Okay.
And we keep being told, oh yeah, it's important, we need to do that, make the connection. But it never gets in the city's budget.
Right.
So that would be like a specific example with this type of looking ahead, that sort of a project qualify as part of an infrastructure, or is that more in the, we're gonna put a certain amount of money in for the repaving and restriping type of things?
I think that's sort of to be determined, because that is one, because there are. And I don't know what all the dollar thresholds, there are dollar thresholds for projects of which they're considered part of the capital improvement program. As opposed to merely
part of a maintenance program. So I don't necessarily know like what those thresholds are, but, and we don't always call out projects, so like a resurfacing project, when, like the resurfacing program, every street that they are gonna resurface in that year is not called out necessarily as a separate capital project. Right? And then the restriping part is a relative, I mean, that they have to restripe anyway, once they resurface. How they choose to restripe it again, unless they're doing, you know, concrete protected bike lanes or something that's very expensive, probably wouldn't necessarily be called out as a capital, individual capital project, but I do think one of the things that they'll have to struggle with if we're gonna develop a real plan is like, what is then the budget that DOT gets, whatever department it is, to make sure that we're actually implementing the kind of infrastructure we want. I think there's just a lot. Like, it's easy to say, oh, we need a capital improvement plan, but you're like, well, what actually is supposed to be in the plan? And what are the priorities? Because, you know, just having a plan isn't particularly sufficient. I mean, you all know, right? The city does not particularly have hasn't demonstrated in the past political will to make bicycle infrastructure a priority. Like having a 5-year plan that continues to reflect that lack of priority isn't like something that's, you know, it's, I guess it maybe gives more visibility to that decision than it's necessary.
You know, the issue, how long, if we're gonna do an infrastructure
Yeah.
plan, number one, does it fit into that? I understand
Yeah.
a project like a bike
Yeah.
path.
Right.
You know, which probably is grant funded, but maybe
Right.
it could be part of the infrastructure, San Fernando Road.
Yeah.
Orange Line. But in terms of on the streets, it seems that if that was considered an infrastructure long-term over time, and you get into a queue, and there's X amount of money, and we're gonna do X amount of projects. Because right now, it just seems like, I mean, to be honest with you, I've heard it, it's like, well, if the council office, it's not your council office, if the council office will put earmark, you know, I don't know, at the time it was like $250,000.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we'll be happy to do it. Right? But that's, you know, that's why I'm sort of hoping that maybe this might be able to help organize things a little better, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, to me, the potential is that you could actually say like the need, you know, if you could do it right, like the investment needed each year. And Councilmember Bloomfield did do a motion sort of asking the CIO to report back on, you know, how much would it cost in order to actually implement mobility plan 2035 by 2035? I think that investment. And so that's the kind of thing that should inform the, you know, the capital improvement plan. It's not necessarily that you would have a list of, especially like stuff like all the individual projects, but that you would say, we need to spend $40 million a year, whatever, I'm just pulling it up, on this program, even if we're not listing every single project in that 5-year plan.
And that's kind of what you've done for sidewalks, X million.
Yeah, I mean, like, right, and the sidewalk program, but we would, you know, under the settlement, we're obligated to spend 31.8 million or some number every year. And I think it would be nice if the city got itself in some sort of discipline spending pattern that was not always driven by us getting sued and like forced. Right. Yeah, Michael.
I'm just trying to understand realistically what this would change. Right. Because the grant funded programs by definition go through a rubric, and in theory, the most worthy projects get funded. Right. So that's already kind of a prioritization. What do you actually like? What realistically would change? What funding source would it unlock, or how much better would projects be, or what would this change?
I think potentially it could change a couple things. Right now, we have a capital and technology improvement investment policy that says we will spend 1% of general fund revenue on capital projects. And I think a much smaller percentage on technology infrastructure, like major upgrades. Is that the right number? Like, we have no, they're like, hey, we made the target every year. Well, but I mean, if you look around the city, it's not like, I think it's hard to argue that our investment in infrastructure is sufficient, right? And so.
Well, we can also just increase that number.
You can increase that number.
You guys could probably
Right,
increase
right,
that
right.
number if you want to.
And so I think part of the purpose of the process is to have a longer term list of what the needs are, what the potential projects are, so that we can make longer range funding priority decisions, as opposed to simply being like, it's supposed to be a list of stuff that's already funded, like that's not helpful. It's not a decision making tool, it's just a list.
But there's some prioritization that goes into what we even apply for funding, right? CAO vets it, and there's different layers, council officer requests it.
Well, but I mean, but like a lot of say, like outside Bureau of Sanitation has like which streets, like there's a fairly limited budget for repairs to hillside streets, a lot of which are fairly opaque as to like which ones actually get prioritized. Is it because the council office requested it? Is it because the Bureau of Engineering actually determined that that was the highest priority? Like it's that part is not particularly transparent. And I say that as somebody whose boss served on the budget committee for 10 years.
So last question,
Yeah.
how would the CIP projects be prioritized? How would that be more equitable or better?
Well, I think the goal of the program is that you're actually coming up with certainly for our office, I've tried to do it like a complete wish list of projects, right? That far exceeds sort of what the available budget is, and then just like funding opportunities come up, or what can we ask for in the budget this year. But it's because we have a list of what we would like to do.
You guys are advanced though, they have you. I mean,
Well,
what about council officers?
not all that advanced, it's just a little.
But I'm saying, what about council officers that don't necessarily have the expertise or their wish list? Like, how do you see prioritization citywide in a CIP?
Well, I think we, you take the mobility plan, for example. Ideally, you have okay, we actually want to implement it over X number of years, right? That will cost whatever number that is, let's just say $50 million a year. Then what are the top, in an ideal world, then what are the top priorities? And that, in a perfect world would involve a discussion, a citywide discussion among the mayor and council of, as opposed to always, a lot of what we do is the council's like, hey, we divide by 15 because we don't really have a strategy for determining what the top priorities are. So it's just let's spread it equally across the city.
I've been hearing all this stuff about programs and everything, but the problem I have is like, where's the vision? Where's the imagination of creating an environment that would be safe for everybody to take a bicycle or take different types of mobility or make people safe, where you could spend time around areas where you feel comfortable. And, we could tell how much money we could put in there or how much money, but unless we have some kind of direct vision, nobody's not gonna say anything because they're not seeing it.
Right, but I think that is on people like my boss, on the elected officials. I mean, some of us were there, like, we adopted the mobility, well, I mean, even before that, like the bike, 2010 bike plan. Actually, it's not 20, you know, when there were lots of council members who stood up and said, we're gonna, like, get this done, right? And then
Well, there was a
the
lot of,
political will,
Yeah.
kind of, you know, whatever political will that people claimed at the time, like, kind of went away, and the mobility plan, you know, when that was enacted, what, 2017 or?
2015.
What,
15.
was it? Okay,
And the first, I think the first.
the first go round, okay, right.
We voted in 2016.
Okay.
Same plan.
Okay. You know, there were a lot of promises, but, you know, that, I mean, that includes, like, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, if you read it, the language. There's some pretty good vision.
Yeah.
Statements in it, it shows, there hasn't been the political will actually,
well, how to put things together.
right?
You know, that's the problem, is like, you got all these departments, you know, and
Yeah.
trying to allocate all this funding and who's responsible as far as on a local, on a state, on a, you know, federal level and everything. And everybody say, well, you gotta ask this person, you gotta ask that person. You know, you're not getting a straight answer, you know, every time when you ask a question,
Right.
you know.
And, I mean, that's a sort of a separate, you know, I think the governance problem is also,
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
yeah, no, right, I mean, you know, I think the idea behind having a longer range plan is that potentially members of the public who actually have this plan, like, start to hold elected officials more accountable, right, for their performance of their communication. I mean, and it's not even, you know, like big stuff, right? Like just coming here, I came off the, you know, red light station on my bike, rode my sidewalk to buy, rode on the sidewalk to buy. One of the, you know, good security people was like, you can't ride on the sidewalk. I'm like,
What?
well, there's no curb cut at the, there isn't even any, like.
Yep.
I can't get off the sidewalk onto the street in front of the, I mean, which goes to your point about vision, like, it's not even always like the big stuff, it's just like. We often don't even do the little stuff.
I have a question. If we got the ADA, the pedestrians and the bike group together and, you know, got stronger, for example, curb cuts are for ADA people.
Right.
And I told them at the pedestrian meeting, pedestrians like them too. I told them at the pedestrian advisory committee that we need them for bikes. You know, so if even for one issue like that, if we got all three groups together, that's what we did at Metro.
Right.
Back in the day, we got the ADA behind us and we got a lot done. So can we somehow get the council members to think in that way, you know, like think about ADA pedestrians and not just community, but you know, like people who are using this
I guess I
infrastructure.
just push back a little bit, because with the ADA, not a secret, but
It's not what?
we are required under the ADA to create
Curb cuts.
ADA compliant curb ramps
Yeah.
every time we resurface the street.
Or ramps.
We have not historically done that.
Yeah.
The cost of doing that actually far exceeds the cost of resurfacing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of a one-time cost, because hopefully, like the concrete of the curb ramp will last many iterations of resurfacing the street. I mean, you know, sidewalks that are 100 years old, or concrete is in perfectly good shape, right? But you know, I mean, it's a microchip, like, but the ADA is like, that is a legal requirement that we're legally obligated to do. Cities who hasn't done it. So I'm not sure, I mean, obviously building coalition is important. But I think it's, you know, not to. You know, it's the idea behind healthy streets, a you know, valid measure, right, is to say, the city hasn't done it willingly, so. So if the voters, you know, put that burden on the city, right? Like if it's make, require the city to do it and create an option to sue, right, then that becomes a different priority in terms of budgeting.
Sharon has a question.
Well, yeah, I was just, fishing through this discussion about political will and coordinating government things. And I'm thinking about, is there an opportunity in this plan to help prompt this kind of thing about making stuff really happen? One of the things I think about is, you know a lot about how the city works or doesn't when it comes to coordinating things as you cross council district lines. So sometimes we see a bike lane that ends just because it's a different council district. And imagine if we did the streets that way for cars, like, well, you get a paved street here because it's in my council district, but now I can cross over to that line.
Right.
And is there some opportunity in a capital improvement plan to help bolster requirements? I think that'd be coordinated, so we don't have like a bus lane that ends at Olympic Boulevard.
Right, I mean, I think that's the goal of, if somebody comes over to build the other motion, that it really came out of, I think, the work of the Our Streets Action Committee, something that they had proposed. The goal is to get that kind of coordination. More coordination.
But I guess even if they're legally required, to make these things coherent networks, it's hard to enforce that.
Right, I mean, but I think the city is making some efforts to, hey, we have a project on. And we're doing a sewer project where we're ripping up the pavement on Tampa Avenue. And so like, hey, since we're, like, what else needs to be done on Tampa, since we're on that, already ripping it up anyway. The city is making efforts to do more of that coordination, but I don't know. It's just hard in the city as big as Los Angeles. Because the people, GOT is not in the same zone, they're a mile and a half away from the Department of Public Works. They don't meet at the water cooler and have a conversation about projects. It's just less of that natural synergy.
Why is that?
I mean, it's just the size of the size of the city. I mean, if you look at a city like West Hollywood, has 40,000 people, their city hall is one 3 or 4 story building. The entire public works department is like half a floor or something. Like they run into each other and chat with each other. City of LA, it's just orders of magnitude. It's like it's just harder to do that coordination. And I wish I had the answer.
I think Philip had his hand up for a little while. I want to get to that, and then we need to probably move on.
Yeah.
Just wanted to note, there was a council file in 2013 that was very similar to the council file that we have now that's passed. And the CAO said that they had a working group of different departments working on, implementing this, and then nothing ever happened. So I'm just a little bit concerned that the same thing might happen again. Secondly, I'm a little bit not clear on what exactly this plan would do. And to take an example, I live in Rampart, and they just got a $13 million state route or transportation grant from the Southtown for safe routes to school for like 25 schools in Koreatown and Rampart Village. And there are bicycle paths in that project that are supposed to be built, but there's no like blueprint of what this is going to look like. In other words, there's nowhere you can go and see what that project is, and then look at adjacent projects and see if there's any synergy between them. And this is one example. I'm on the Hampshire is one of the streets, and then stress-free connections is also on New Hampshire, trying to create stress-free connections. But if the two departments, the two offices within LADOT, we're not even like aware that each other were doing that. And my understanding is that this capital plan would get everybody to put their information on paper in a way that the other departments and the city could all, and the public could all look at it and say, have their own, at least understanding of what these projects are. Versus, all the other things that we're talking about, like trying to get things to work together. The first step was just to have the information in front of everybody. And that's what I thought the purpose of the capital infrastructure plan was.
I don't think it's quite what it is. I think the capital infrastructure plan is really more about like how much money do we need to be spending and what we but separately, there are other efforts going on to try to improve the coordination. You mentioned about working in council office. Frustrating and like the departments, you have two projects overlapping right next to each other that don't go with the other project. And then, one thing I will say is like, I think Mayor Bass, sometimes people have been in the city for a long time, we're like, oh, that's just, this is the way the city works, or doesn't work, right? And I think that she, one advantage of her coming from outside the city and having brought many people from outside the city, I think it was a little bit of a bumpy start in some ways, but it's also people who are looking at like, the way you're doing it is insane, like, let's fix it and let's change it.
What do other cities do? Isn't there some type of metric, say, okay, what is San Francisco, even if it's not the direct example, you gotta have some type of like, are they doing something? And if they're doing something, how do they get something done and we're not doing anything?
Right, the challenge is LA is so big, there aren't a whole lot of analog.
Yeah, but
But like San Francisco is like, it's a city and county, so like the way that we have to deal with like Metro and the county and the city and county in San Francisco is like their transit agency and their street agency are like part of the same.
New York's
government. New York with Europe, but New York also has a much like stronger mayor system. So,
So
we do look at what other cities do. Yeah.
How did that get going? So, I heard about it and then it started going, like, it's
Cedar
beautiful.
Boulevard.
Yeah, how long has that been talked about yet? Because I heard about it and now it's like,
I don't even remember us to be 25 years. 6
oh,
years.
it's been it's crazy long time. Okay.
Yeah, and part of it is, COVID kind of messed with a lot of stuff, but, yeah. So I don't know if this has been helpful.
This has been very helpful. Thank you. And we have somebody who's gonna counter.
Oh, and then I did want to mention your motion, like, just,
I was gonna follow you up for a moment.
okay, have you talked about that?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna move along.
okay,
Thank you so much, Jeff.
sure.
We have, I can hand out your data to everybody.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, and anybody who has any more questions on the investment or whatever it's called, investment infrastructure,
Capital and
Plan.
capital.
the capital plan.
Capital planning.
Thank you so much.
Jeff, are you leaving or are you gonna stay for a little while?
I have to leave. So,
I'm just gonna come out with just.
All right, so, I guess we're going to move along here. We have quorum. We want to keep it for a minute and, we need approval of minutes. So would anybody like to, yes,
Is Eli on?
No.
yeah, he's
Okay.
involved. Yeah, he's good. So anybody would like to make a motion to, yeah,
I'll move the way for the minutes.
thank you. Second,
Mhm.
Rob, thank you. Any discussion? Good. All right, so we've kind of had public comment
Oh, no.
on,
We need to ask.
what? Oh, I'm sorry.
You should ask.
Is there any discussion regarding the minutes?
Any public comment?
Any public comment on the minutes? I'm so good at this, you know.
Well,
We also
we
have-
gotta-
We're almost ready for a switch, so.
we also
bear
have
with me.
people-
What?
we also have people on.
Oh,
Let's keep moving.
do we have anybody?
No,
Okay, thank you, Philip. All right, so,
so take a vote to
Well-
approve them.
we, everyone not in favor of passing a minute, raise your hand. They're passed, okay,
Motion comes.
or in unanimous,
Consent.
consent, all right. So, public comment on non-agenda items, do we have any? Yes,
It's really quick, since we got, I rode out San Fernando Road to Santa Cruz, place to ride. San Fernando Road is the city of LA, people don't realize that, out to Sierra Highway, and Sierra Highway is rideable. But San Fernando Road's a little scary, and it's better than on the other side of the freeway with e-bikes, more e-bikes here than regular bikes. It is a natural way to ride, it's an easy,
nice,
hope you got, I think it's CD6 and CD12. You know, Mike and I talked about it a few years ago. And Michael Schneider's list, I mean, I know when you're talking to Jeff, it seems like you have a list of all the projects.
yeah. Yeah,
Shut it
we,
down in Brooks, get it done, you know, that's the major infrastructure, but you got the big picture, I figured, I'm not gonna mess with that, that was my public comment. So, oh, I did get my notes on wayfinding signs, that's been going on since 2010.
Call her, you got her number, right? Got her number?
I'm not gonna call her a bugger about that, no, you guys, your mayoral appointees, call up and say, you've been spending money and saying that we promise this will be done.
Well, do
$500,000
you have a
has
list
been
of the
spent.
ones you want?
Huh?
You have a list of the ones you want?
Wayfinding signs, they were supposed to bring them to the BAC, but they never did. This is.
Oh, they're actually.
Keep going.
Well, LABAC said, no, they haven't. That was the email he sent me, said the project is still under constructability review and it hasn't been advertised yet. We are working on finalizing the project plan to start construction or installing the signs.
Jonathan, I have an idea.
And I have, that was an email he sent me after I think your meeting, and I
Oh,
asked
really?
about it.
Yeah, because they went in.
And I have promised, I mean, and it's a 2015 article, promise after promise. It's being, I won't read them, you can look at the streets blogger if you want.
Jonathan,
Also, one more thing I'd say, Ryan Snyder is with Caltrans right now. He happened to email me tonight, so we can reach out to Caltrans too, if they're the holdup. Because Ryan responded in an email on that. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm happy to send this to the mayor's office. And make them aware of it.
It should be great.
I don't think we know where the holdup is, and that'd be the first.
Any other public?
Okay, any other, okay, thank you, Jonathan. Any other public comment? All right, we're going to item 4. And, we have quorum, so we would like to elect our new LABAC chair. And, we have a nomination.
I nominate Rob Cadota.
I second it. Any third? Any discussion?
Well, any other nominations?
Any other nominations? Who wants it? David, don't laugh. Okay,
Glenn wants it.
who does it? You want it?
No.
Lenny, you want it back?
No, I just wanted to be sure everyone knows that this is, you know, that, February of with, odd years, every 2 years. So this is the remainder of the unexpired term that,
We revote.
that Eli had taken from last February. So it'll run till a year,
Next.
till February of 25.
5, okay,
Right, because that's
okay,
not our choice, that's city council.
okay, good, so, is that good with you, Rob?
It's up to
Oh,
you
sorry,
all.
sorry.
No, I mean, that's a fact.
Oh, yes,
Right,
thank you,
but-
thank you for the
yeah.
clarification. All right, so, any other nominations for chair? Hearing none? Any discussion?
We also have to ask for public comment.
Any public comment? All right,
Let's raise hands.
let's see who wants to not vote for a chair, for Rob as chair.
Yeah, let's vote for it.
Yeah, I wanna vote for it.
Okay, who's voting for Rob? Raise your hands, please. Unanimous?
Sorry.
Are you-
I want to show what.
Unanimous. Thank you. I hand you the power, okay?
What great power I yield now.
Yeah.
I wield now.
Didn't have to say anything.
All right, thank you. All right, well, let's continue. Thank you for the presentations by Laura and Jeff. Glenn, thanks for helping make that happen. And who is our contact with Jeff that made that happen? Thank you. We don't have any other city department reports. Moving down, so that's item 6. Item 7, there's a few things under there. The Bicycle Advisory Committee strategic plan was finalized by the people who wrote it. It was sent out to you this afternoon. So we will post that on our website. The goal really is for us to dive into that and to understand it. And so we are proposing, the Advocacy and Education Committee is proposing a planning and goal setting retreat. There are 2 dates that we're looking at, January 20th, or actually the following 27th is what I'd like to propose. Saturday morning. I understand there's a conflict for the 20th for a couple of people. I'm wondering how many people can attend a planning conference Saturday, January 27th. Can you raise your hands to see how many people could be available?
Rob, how many hours you picked?
Morning, it would wrap up by 1 at the latest with lunch involved. To be determined.
Vista Brewery.
Could be, sure.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, could you see hands of available?
Yeah.
Janice, did either dates work for you or?
I'm gonna withhold my
Can you comment
vote
soon?
because I have to ask for the day off.
Oh,
work
okay,
in order
okay.
to-
1,
either
2, Michael, you, is 20th any better? Okay, all right. All right, so then let's plan on the 27th. That seems to be better for the most people. Sorry, the 27th. Oh, you're the one of the reasons. Okay. All right, well, we will continue. We'll do what we can with the people that we have, and we'll try to make sure that it's interactive and that you have opportunity for input for that. Great, thank you. Locations, is there a recommendation?
The Island Gallery on Robert Boulevard,
Oh,
where the proclamation is not being used.
That's right.
okay.
Official document.
You've got enough space to hold this group and a few guests? All right. We'll take that, yep, Saturday morning. Great. All right, that's a solid option. We'll see what else, make sure that it meets requirements. Yep. And move on. Terrific.
By the way, just because we have new people on,
Yeah,
anything we do has to be, whether it's retreat, whatever, it has to be formal noticed. Agenda submitted to the city's early notification system, just as usual. It's just, this will be noticed as a special meeting, but it's a retreat, so you call it retreat, special meeting. You know, with the agenda.
It has to be Brown Act compliant, open to the public, and the facilities need to be ADA accessible. So, Lanny, the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, who helped write this, and some of their staff, the consultants are interested in presenting this with us so that it's a more interactive. We will talk with them about next steps on that.
In that too,
Thank you, Jeff.
Good stuff, and how do we implement that in that like specific action plan?
Yeah, yeah.
Really good.
And Brennan, you joined us a little bit late. Do you want to do a formal, hi, I'm,
Hi, Brendan. Let's see, sorry.
thank you. Please know LABAC, we have, a standard email, labac.committee@gmail. Not everyone has opted in, so, please let me know whether you want to be a part of that or you would like not to be out of that. So that when we send something out, we know to forward it, that it's not, the LABAC Gmail is not 100%, is what I'm trying to say. So if you are not on that list and want to be, please let us know. Lionel, you'll have to let me know about that and we'll try to get that taken care of. The link to the committee roster, 2023 LABAC, it also has a fair, we have tried to create contacts, city contacts. So you may want to take a look at that if you're trying to find out who you might want to contact around a particular topic. We've also tried to identify the most bike-related person in each of the city council offices. So if you can take a look at that for your own area to see if we've tapped the right person. Not everybody has a transportation director, but most do, and so that's what we've identified. But if there's better information, please make use of that. It's supposed to be a working tool.
And my council district is mobility, field and mobility deputy. So look for the words mobility as well, or transportation.
If you have the agenda, it should, the link is embedded in that and it should take that to you. We have some funding, moving on to agenda 8, advocacy and education subcommittee. We have no funds, so, but if we ever do have funds, there is a funding motion to reimburse former LABAC member David Wolfberg $500 for costs around maintaining our website. So if and when we come onto funds, does somebody want to make a motion to be able to reimburse David for those past costs? Yeah, thank you. Bren, were you seconding? Great. Discussion? Bren?
So when this was first done back a number of years ago, I asked specifically, about the costs associated with it, trying, because at the time there were some, you don't get all the bells and whistles, but they were free, because this is exactly what I was concerned about, that we would spend years building it up and then somebody left or whatever. So this issue was discussed then. We were told, don't worry about it. So I just want to put that out there that it was discussed at the time that we tried to come up with, and some of you may have been around at that time, that we had something that wasn't a financial obligation, and said, don't worry about it, it will be taken care of. And so I was frankly a bit disappointed it's understandable, but still that conversation did happen. So it is disappointing that now saying, okay, you owe us this money.
What I understood was that his card was being charged without his knowing it.
Well, in any case, somebody incurred costs. If the motion is to reimburse that person if we ever get funds to be able to reimburse them for it. To that end, I have reached out to LADOT. We are in the process of them building us a web page so that we have an official default, so that if we stop paying or this separate one, we have something that LADOT can post our agendas and other kinds of things. So that is in progress, so that it is a part of LADOT's expense versus us who have no money. We could absolutely pass the hat as well.
But it's $500
It's $33 each.
33
Gives
each.
us,
We could probably do it.
So is there a motion to approve this funding motion
For Dave.
for David? Right. Sorry, we have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion? Seeing no, is there any public comment? So calling the question, yes,
My discussion is, I'm questioning whether we can pass a motion to fund something that we don't actually have the funds for. In other words, if the funds become available, it seems like that would be the time to do the motion rather than before there's any funds. In other words, we identify funds, or if you're saying we're going to make this motion and then send it to the clerk's office or something like that.
no, it's just it's a statement of good faith that if we ever come upon money, we will try to pay you back.
But we don't have to vote on it.
But we would still have to vote on it again. This would just be an expression of goodwill, and then we would.
That's about all that it means currently, correct? Yeah. And somebody could pass the hat, a Venmo account or something like that, but
He's correct. We need a funding source to actually have effect.
correct.
How long do you have to wait before the website is gonna?
We maybe a year.
So we don't have a website right now?
We
We
have a
do.
website.
Paid for it.
We did?
She paid $10. I don't know how long that $10 is gonna
It's
last.
gonna last for this year.
I think
until
part of
next-
it will.
No, $10 lasts until,
In any case, can I have a vote? All those in favor of the motion as presented? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Motion passes. Thank you.
You actually have to do, if it's a real funding motion, I should do a roll call. In the future.
We'll do that.
Call each person's name.
okay.
We'll do that for any future motions where there's actual money. Thank you.
They would be notified if we have the job.
Do you wanna,
We can't pay him now. All we are saying is we want to make you good when we can.
Okay, good. All right, sounds good.
Okay, can you
Um,
please call the no and abstentions as well?
Yes, who's voting no?
No vote.
No vote? Okay, abstentions? 2. Thank you. Let's table the second funding motion about the LABAC Zoom account, since we have no funds, but know that members are using their own personal Zoom accounts. Point of information. The other are,
Sorry, let me. can I
yes,
comment on that? So there are at least 2 city Zoom accounts in this room. I don't know the difference between the personal Zoom versus the city Zoom. And I don't know that it makes a difference, but I just wanted to, if there's any issue about a city entity, in terms of what Zoom accounts that are being used, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
so who has access to city Zoom accounts?
I do for one,
Okay,
and I got a vote of the neighborhood council to authorize its use for any city entity that was attended by a member of the neighborhood council.
okay,
That's how, and it's being used for that.
okay.
I make a motion that we use funds account.
That I would. You can make the motion.
I want to move that, since Glenn has an account available and his board has approved using it for city entities such as the bicycle advisory committee, that the bicycle advisory committee take advantage of that. Possibility.
We have to vote on it?
What are we doing?
Okay.
It's a motion to change our practice. And so, Glenn, is that operational? Operational?
Let's see if we have a second. So, I guess you probably want that. It's a legitimate question. Okay. So,
Would you have to be at all the meetings then?
I would have to get them started and then turn the hosting over to somebody. And we kind of worked that out before, although advocacy and education. I think with Henny, I think Henny brought her own.
And
Yeah.
I'm using mine.
And I
but-
using yours.
Mhm.
So, the purpose of my bringing this up was not because, that I necessarily want to take that responsibility, although I'm happy to do it for the BAC meetings. Because I expected that I'd be here for all of them. But the reason I brought it up is that if anyone ever questioned about the use of personal account as opposed to city election account, I just wanted to bring that up. Because I don't know that we've ever discussed that, because I think the discussion, I think when I left being chair was that the LA Bicycle Coalition was gonna bring, and I guess there was some problems with that. And I don't know that we ever had that conversation as far as, how we're doing that. So, I am not objecting to a personal account being used. I just wanted to, number one, we have some new people here, number one. Number two, I don't know that anyone ever asked the city about that. And then number three, I don't know, like I said, the quote bells and whistles, I don't know if you have everything in terms of all that. So I don't know, I don't really know.
Okay.
It seems to have been working for the past whatever period of time. If for some reason you weren't
So
available,
it's a default, it could be a default at
it
this
could
point.
be, it could
Okay.
be. So I just want to answer the question. I don't know if that helps with your motion or not.
If it's not convenient, then I'll follow the motion, but when you mention other people having accounts. Our neighborhood council also has an account, but we haven't approved using it for city entities, so yours just seems like a better test case. So in other words, that could be an option if we
Yeah.
approve doing that hypothetically, so I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay. Thanks for the discussion and the exploration. We have a little bit better understanding of some possible options, so let's move on. The remarks from the subcommittee chair, I won't spend any more time except to let you know. I'm going to go to the National Bike Summit. So thought I'd try to do that, and the advocacy workshop that they're doing. So I'm looking forward to that. Moving on to planning and bikeways, there are 3 motions. There's an administrative motion to formally join bikeways planning and engineering into 1 subcommittee versus 2. It will have a chair and a vice chair, and will be called the Planning and Bikeways Engineering Subcommittee. Do you want to make that motion, Philip?
Since I'm not I'm just the acting chairperson of that committee, so I think Jennifer is the actual chairperson.
Jennifer, do you want to make the motion?
All right, yeah, I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Public comment? Board discussion?
So is the wording on the agenda, because I think we had this conversation at the subcommittee meeting.
I think I tried to straighten it out.
Yeah, it's not. So,
Okay,
currently it's bikeways engineering. And then there was planning. So if you're gonna end up with joining the 2 together, it would be bikeways engineering and planning. Or if you're gonna change the name and make it 3, but I don't think
No.
that was your intent.
all right, so it's planning and bikeways engineering subcommittee. With
Yeah,
a
this is
chair
what-
and vice chair.
Say that again.
Under number 9, planning and bikeways engineering subcommittee. The underlined part. I know.
That's why I'm looking at the.
All right, I understand.
So what are you gonna make?
It should, I believe you wanted it to be planning and bikeways engineering subcommittee.
Correct.
So let's amend it to reflect that.
Under A, it says to formally join bikeways, planning and engineering. But the existing, I'm understanding Glenn, it's called bikeways and engineering, one committee, and the other one is planning.
We're trying to combine those two.
I know.
Okay, right. I understand.
It's referencing what it's combining, and it's not naming what the existing ones are.
We'll amend the motion to reflect that.
But I think the header on number 9 has the correct wording.
That's right.
and
Correct.
The motion itself
Is wrong.
is not, so it'll just reflect the way the heading is.
Correct.
And so the motion includes, constituting this this combined committee with all the current members of both committees.
Okay. With a chair and vice chair. Any further board discussion, committee discussion?
Wait, so it's one versus two separate was the meeting with two different sets of members, so.
It's one committee.
Yeah.
That's turning into one committee with one set of members.
Okay, and we know the set now.
Well,
right?
we can,
Oh, we'll determine it.
correct.
Okay, to be determined. Can you add that?
We can do that at January retreat,
Okay,
revisit committee assignments,
All right.
subcommittee assignments. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amended motion as presented, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
We do a separate motion to all the chair and vice chair seats.
Or does that happen?
Glenn, chair, subcommittee chair and vice chair, can they decide?
No, it has to be approved by this board, but, I mean, historically, we changed the procedure for almost 50 years, that's the way it's been. So, I would recommend we do it the way we've been doing it. Jennifer has been the
Chair.
bikeways engineering side of it. Kent was planning. Philip was acting. So, I'm not sure what the preference would be as far as, or whatever. So I don't know if you want to do that tonight.
Can we do that tonight?
Well, it is on the agenda. It'll have a chair and vice chair.
That-
So I don't know.
I think it's fair enough to operate.
The discussion in the committee was that I would be the chair and Jennifer would be the vice chair.
And, it's at the pleasure of the committee anyway, and we typically reorganize at some point, so, usually our biennial every 2 years, so, and that could have been forwarded as a committee recommendation, subcommittee.
Great.
So I'll make a motion that, that the chair of this new committee be Philip, and that the vice chair be,
Jennifer. Great.
I'll second.
Thank you. Public comment? Board discussion?
Point of clarification, I wonder if we should ask for if there are any other nominations.
Oh,
Thank you.
Anybody
Any other nominations? Seeing none?
Next year.
All those in favor of having Philip be chair and Jennifer vice chair of the Planning and Bikeways Subcommittee, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Unanimous. Brendan, is that a hand up? No, great, thank you. B, policy motion in support of Century City Bikeway improvements to support a Century City Bikeway network plan to create greater activization of Century City with the opening of Metro Station. Philip, do you want to make that motion?
So the motion was, the motion was to be crafted by for the BAC to support their activation. And I was unclear whether someone after the committee considered this, whether there was someone else who's gonna develop the motion, or if we're supposed to make the motion based on this discussion of committee. So in other words, it wasn't clear to me if somebody was going to make a motion, and if somebody was, please do so, otherwise I will make a motion.
Oh,
Well, Jonathan, do you,
I worked with Rob on it, and sent the last version to Rob, I'm not sure I have it here with me. Remember that?
yeah, but I don't have it.
Frankly, just take off the word policy. Then I think it's fine.
The way it is in IG.
Do we make a motion to support the Century City Bikeway improvements, support Century City Bikeway network, fund greater, that's a little wordy, but I think it says that it's the. I'm seeing nodding head, I think it says enough.
Okay,
When it gets to public comment, I have to.
Yeah.
The motion has been made, but that was.
Right.
My suggestion.
so are you comfortable making the motion as it's presented? Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Public comment?
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Janet. She put me
Oh,
in touch with
Yep,
the,
clarifying.
Before he,
Yep,
because one of the things that came up when we discussed this in subcommittee was the clarification, so I'm hoping in your public comment you can answer this, that's why I've been saying this. The term, the words greater activation, so if you could address that, because it was not clear when we discussed it.
So, I know Michael made this, he publicized the motion having to do with when things get handed over to Metro and they end up doing city stuff, it's a mess. Like, we didn't get the bike lanes downtown, you know, stuff in the streets blocked. There's no bike and ped access to Metro facilities. There is no plan for first and last mile to the Century City Metro station. Zero, zip. There are wide sidewalks, which is great. There's no car parking, which is great. So it's fertile ground, it's ready to happen. And it was, the motion was that LA's, the BAC would get the ball rolling. And the essence is that the BAC supports the vision of activating, which is a very broad word, those facilities that are there to be used. So again, Janice connected me with the head of the Chamber of Commerce. That's certainly one way to go. I think it's good for the businesses. My vision, I'm closer to Palms. I'd like to see shuttle buses and completing bike lane, cycle track. Then if it gets real granular, connecting the Palms Expo line, the E line to the new subway. But we've got this great big subway coming in, and no one's done anything about it. So time is now.
thank you.
So you guys are telling the city the time is now. And
Thank you.
hopefully Michael will be telling Metro, take the hands off because the city's gonna do it right. It was one of the three motions you were publicizing.
Yeah, actually, there is a first last mile plan for section 2 and 3 in Canada right now.
Say that again?
Metro did develop a first last mile plan for purple line section 2 and 3.
So there is some decision.
I'm looking at it.
All right, never mind.
But that doesn't mean anything, like Metro's plans are just plans, the city would have to instruct. So
And I think I shared with.
So the motion is still relevant and
the motion is
worth,
still relevant, but like, this is the bike plan for Century City, for its top.
Well, and we know what the plans were for downtown, and they didn't do it. They said it'll have to wait, but,
And
I did share with Michael, there's money that we can put in, like, I think it's the Westfield addition, there's money for a bike path that we have built.
And just really quick, the plan calls protected bike lanes on Santa Monica, Century Park East, Avenue of the Star, Century Park West, and Constellation. That's what the plan is.
thank you. I think we're still good.
We're still up.
Sorry.
So if we wanted to, we could make this motion just that the BAC wants the city of Los Angeles. We could even reference the motion that was just taken up for the 3% contribution going towards first last mile, saying we want the city of Los Angeles to implement Metro's first last mile. It would include protected bike lanes at every street in Century City.
Can we often reference those sorts of funding and mission?
Yeah, I mean, the city just did. It's by the council file, but yeah.
Uh,
So I would, accept a friendly amendment to the motion to do what, Michael was saying.
okay, great. Further board discussion? Seeing no further discussion, can I see those in favor of,
Well, should we
Yep.
amend it?
Yeah.
You wanna amend it?
We have to
please,
vote.
sure,
So I-
yeah, yep, yep,
We can, that it's just, whatever the, really what the amendment is, and then whoever seconded it can agree to the amendment, that way we don't have to do this process.
Let me just find I'm trying to find the motion that was proposed. Where is it?
It's the.
This policy motion? Okay. I mean, what I would suggest, we just pass something that says the BAC wants LADOT to implement Metro's first last mile plan for the Purple Line Section 2. And we can reference council file. Set it up 23-1244 as a way to pay for it. 23-1244, which is for the transportation committee, it's specific to the city of LA's requirement to pay 3% towards to Metro, either in cash or local improvements. And the total funding, actually, this gets into,
well, let's stick with the motion.
well, yeah, but it actually talks about Central City, or Section 2 rather. So the BAC requests that the city of Los Angeles implement Metro's first last mile plan specific to bikeways for the Purple Line Section 2 extension. A possible funding source is, we can reference, a possible funding source exists referencing council file 23-1244.
And the Westfield one?
We can reference that. I don't know what to
I
point
don't think it
to.
matters, it's just,
I don't
you're
think
gonna go to you're gonna go to Katie and say,
The city has, just so everyone's aware, that the city owes Metro $182 million. That's 100% of 3%. So there's potentially $182 million available for last mile projects around metro stations across the entire city.
Okay, so,
Can I make one suggestion?
Yes.
Instead of the word wants, that we say we support or encourage, or yeah, something,
Why don't we say request?
fine, just the word wants doesn't.
Request,
Yeah, something more further.
request.
Okay, but how does this get expressed? Is it a letter from Rob on behalf of the BAC?
It's a letter on BAC letterhead.
Okay.
I can show the letter.
Oh, I've seen the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, you and I have worked on that before.
Yeah, it should go to Katie and Laura.
Well, that's what I was asking. I want to know if what the dynamic is in moving this forward, as opposed to us just voting on something that sounds cool.
Yeah, and actually, so the 23-1244 was presented by Katie and Krikorian and Bob Blumenfield and seconded by Tracy Park. So we could
winner.
CC all
Sure.
of them.
Yeah.
But it's really Katie, 'cause it's her district, and Laura at DOT, and I can get you a Metro contact. CC.
Great, thank you.
Second, my motion.
Jennifer, oh,
Okay, so,
Curtis.
so, are you okay with the amendment? Okay, so we don't have to go back and revisit the motion.
Right,
We can
we're gonna,
pass
we're voting on the motion as presented by Michael and accepted by the motion maker Curtis, well, Philip and Curtis.
All I would say is, it's the original motion and second as amended by Michael.
Thank you. So, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Unanimous? Thank you. All right, we're moving along. Curtis, do you have an update on the bike lane closure thing
Well,
that you
no, I
want?
spoke with Laura earlier, so yeah, jump the queue.
That's fine.
You'll use
Do you just want to do a quick recap?
I'm gonna be speaking to Laura and Jeff about the possibility of, Michael, Jennifer and I and some others have worked on a motion with Mehmet at Council District 4 to, it's really back to Michael's concept of sharing the lane and making it safe. So Mehmet put together a motion. It was, in my mind, inadequate. It wasn't strong enough. It didn't really amount to much. So I added in a few sentences to strengthen it. And at this point, I've been working on this for 1.5 years, and so I'm going to continue working on it to get either Council District 4 or one or the other to support it, and then I'll bring it back to the BAC to do something more formal at this, on this side.
Okay, thank you so much.
So,
Philip?
Did you want us to pass any motion?
Nothing right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna contact Laura and Jeff and go back to 4 and see if I can get some agreement on the language. And then I'll bring it back. And if I don't get agreement, I'm gonna bring it back regardless.
Great.
And Philip, do you want to announce your January meeting is not when is your next meeting?
Oh, the next meeting of the subcommittee.
Glenn will tell you it's the 4th Tuesday in January. Typically the 3rd, but there's a conflict.
Yeah, the next meeting is January the 23rd.
23rd. Is that good?
Yeah, Tuesday, January 23rd, 1 p.m.
Okay,
23rd?
great. Any other?
Yeah, just, I want to ask Chris a question. Yeah, so the because this did come up at the subcommittee meeting. So the status is that CD4 is looking only at a draft motion right now, and they have no plans to introduce a motion at this point.
Well, I don't want to say that absolutely, but I'm working with CD4, my district, to see if we can create something that they're comfortable with and that I am. And then I'll bring it back here to see if everybody else is comfortable. But I mean, right now, I mean, if this was a baseball game, I'm in the 2nd inning.
So is it possible that CD4 might introduce the motion before our next meeting? Or
No,
is
not
it-
a chance.
Okay.
Zero. Okay, that's the optimistic view. I hope you're right, Michael. But I doubt it will.
Okay, thanks.
Philip?
So just 2 other updates from the committee. One is that in terms of hardening biplanes, LADOT was LABAC was asking for the LABAC to, provide locations where there are already protected biplanes that aren't hardened, that we would suggest would be good.
All of them, there's not that many.
So that's the suggestion is to do all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the feedback we should give.
Yeah, anywhere there's a K71 should be hardened. And the city knows where their protected bike lanes are, it's literally not, and most of them are downtown.
So
So let's start with spring.
my suggestion was that when we, as a committee, respond to LADOT, that we want all of the current protected bike lanes to be hardened.
Yeah, we can't make a motion. We don't have it on the agenda, but
But it was an invitation that.
Yes,
all of us.
yes.
So if anybody wants to share that.
And the second thing was that, I had asked if we would have any, the subcommittee would have input into the, systematic, safety analysis of proactive improvements, which they're doing along with the, refresh of the HIM. And the response I got was when the final draft of that report becomes available, that the committee, either the committee or the subcommittee will get input into it. We'll get to review it and we'll get to provide input. So maybe that on the next agenda.
okay, great. Thank you. Eli is still kind of on family leave. He's indicating his mother had some issues that is consuming more time, so we don't have an update. He logged on for a little bit and needed to log off. So we have no updates from Bike LA. we do have a file of the city council files. Our goal is to make sure that the subcommittees monitor them and stay on top of them. Please take a look at the link and to make sure that we have all of this. If you see we're missing bicycle related city council file, please let us know. Karen did a nice job of sharing the transportation committee's agenda. It did get canceled for tomorrow, but those kinds of notices are always helpful. Michael, the Streets for All updates?
So I'll start with the big one, the ballot measure. We're now officially measure HLA. So we're gonna be rebranding from Healthy Streets LA to measure HLA. Keep LA Moving, John Russo, for those of us who've been doing this for a while, probably familiar with him, was designated as the writing the opposition argument. So we write an argument for it, they write an opposition argument, and then we get to write a rebuttal to their argument. And that's all happening in the next couple of weeks. We've raised close to $2 million. We still have a gap between what we want and what we've raised, but we're getting close. You're gonna see billboards, you're gonna see videos of families that have experienced loss due to traffic violence, talking about their story and saying this measure will put an end to bloodshed in our streets. And that's all kicking off at the beginning of next month. So that's the ballot measure. Obviously, we need all the help we can get to pass measure HLA. The polling's very good, but we're only estimating about 30 or 35% turnout to primary election. So that's the biggest challenge, to get people to just mail back the ballot. Neighboring city, I don't remember if I mentioned this last time, but Beverly Hills is going to be putting in protected bike lanes on Beverly Boulevard between Doheny and Santa Monica Boulevard. It was a really hard fight at a council study session, and we just squeaked by it. And that's getting done before the end of the year, so this month. And then the city of Los Angeles is now looking at Doheny. LA has a gap. There's a gap between Burton Way and just south of Beverly Boulevard. That's the city of LA. It's the only part of Doheny that has 2 southbound lanes instead of 1. And so the idea would be to remove one of the lanes and have protected bike lanes that would connect with the new protected bike lanes at Beverly Boulevard. And then the city of West Hollywood is looking at putting in protected bike lanes now east of Doheny on Beverly Boulevard. So all of a sudden you might have an interesting network in that part of town. We're making a lot of progress on Venice Boulevard. We worked with CB10 and there was a motion introduced yesterday or maybe last week, I'm losing track, to get Venice Boulevard's bike lanes protected to Arlington. So that'd be from Fairfax to Arlington. They're already going to put them in from La Cienega to Fairfax. This will get them all the way to Arlington with the street narrows. And then I've been working with Metro and CD1 and the Downtown LA Neighborhood Council and the bids down there on a plan to extend 24/7 bus lanes from Arlington to downtown, all the way to 16th Street and San Pedro. Venice becomes 16th Street and this would go to San Pedro. And then for bikes at Arlington or close to Arlington, getting people up to Country Club and 11th Street and making 11th Street a very bike-friendly street all the way to downtown LA. So exciting movement on Venice Boulevard.
We have Heather Hutt and CD1 interested in that situation. I didn't know you were gonna do that. I was talking Venice the whole way, so.
We looked at Venice the whole way. The challenge with Venice the whole way is so first of all, you have to remove both parking and a travel lane. That's not necessarily a problem, but then the bus gets stuck in just a single lane for bus and cars.
So 11th Street is you're talking?
Yeah, it's 4 blocks north, something like that. It's a calm residential street with some
My current for.
with some modal filters and some basic neighborhood enhanced network treatment.
So no lanes though, just.
No lanes, but calm traffic on residential streets that in some
It's a
ways.
Great bike street.
And DOT is already working on, there's a school around there, and there's a Safe Routes to
Okay.
School project also on the left. And working on getting a signal at Hoover because it jogs slightly.
Okay.
Okay, a few more quick things. We will be done with our feasibility study to extend the Browning Creek bike path in about 2 weeks. And CD10 will be introducing a motion directing BOE to apply for construction funding for the next ATP cycle, which is next summer. This being opened by the Olympics, I'd be very happy. It's probably a $35 million project. And, you know, we're handing it to the city on a silver platter, so hopefully they do something with that. Marina Central Park, for anyone that's been following, became, even the idea of studying this thing became very controversial. But we will find out in the spring if we got the money to do a feasibility study on that. And lastly, we are right now talking to offices and working on state bills for next year. A lot of good bike stuff, and I'll probably at our next meeting, I'll be able to be more specific on bill ideas, but a lot of good stuff on.
Great, thank you.
One question, so the 11th Street starts in Arlington? They
Yes.
pick up there?
Yes.
Then it's up Arlington to 11 across.
It may not be direct on Arlington, it might be a couple blocks west of Arlington to get to the country club.
Fourth?
That's the one we currently.
Yeah.
No, fourth is something, this is way further south. than Fourth. So just,
No, Fourth Ave, the connect,
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
I thought you
I
meant
all
Fourth
the
Street.
time, yeah, Fourth Ave between Country Club.
Something like that, Fourth Avenue or something like
And
that,
West
just
Bike Lanes.
west of Arlington to get to 11.
Thank you. Anything else for Streets for All?
I just want to ask if there's anything we should all know about how to help support public streets.
Obviously vote for it, get your friends to vote for it, talk about it. You know, if everyone in this room got 5 people to vote for it and those people got 5 people to vote, et cetera, you could impact the election. So, yeah. I have a PDF and we're about, it's
About to launch.
yeah, we haven't really publicized it yet, but it's yesonhla.com. It's the website that's almost completely done.
Great, thank you. Let's do quickly with 10-15 minutes, so a minute per person, kind of what's happening in your area. And we'll start with the newest people. Lionel, welcome aboard. Thanks for
thank you.
joining us. Newly appointed today.
Yes, well, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for the welcoming message, and I'd like to thank Karina for coming here. For my update, I noticed that the San Fernando Road bike path, they added the remaining last section. So they added asphalt by Huxford and San Fernando Road near the tracks. So I noticed that they had completed the last section. There's like a minor small gap, but that should be hopefully filled in soon. So I'm glad that they kind of completed the last section.
We're going to jump to our second newest, Brennan. Yeah.
The main thing I think I saw was you responded on to is the north-south routes. They're on Wall Grove and
Mhm.
Biggs and just, you know, Ken has good comments on it. So I think I just have to see what if the time went on that.
I think it passed.
It's already-
Well, I think the comments close. This is a West Side Mobility Project. And there were a couple of routes proposed.
Are you working on Ohio at all with CD 11 on the west side? Check out. Well, I don't want to gossip, but I've heard that there may be some resistance on the CD 11 side. There's a proposed 2-way cycle track on the north side of Ohio between Westwood and at least the 405, which is the CD 5 border. But I don't know if that's going to be continued to CD 11. So
You was on the south side of Veterans. So.
It's on Ohio.
But isn't that Veterans? Doesn't that go on the south side of the Veterans?
The VA.
It's the south side of the VA. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you could just nudge that, that'd be good.
I don't have an accurate understanding of youngest to oldest, because I'm relatively new, but Curtis, do you want to give us a?
I have no more to add than I already have.
Okay.
Sorry, we focus on the Ohio, but how far west was it?
All the way to Westgate, where Ohio ends, I think, and then Caltrans is putting a 2-way protected cycle track for those 3 blocks called the Ohio to Ohio gap. and then near Bundy, it would continue, and then it becomes the city of Santa Monica. That's it.
Aubrey, do you have a little report?
Just do a big repairs on Jefferson International. From the new bridge in Culver City. They're grinding the streets. That's right there. Some, Cumulus, the Raptor building. All the way down to Jefferson, and pretty well messed up. It was a bike lane, but they found it up.
Philip?
We got a report on our subcommittee on Hollywood Boulevard Safety and Mobility Project. And they received a lot of the survey, they got nearly 2,000 responses, they received a lot of feedback. Asking for safety improvements, including safe pedestrian crossings, safe bike infrastructure, and speed management along on Hollywood Boulevards. And they're taking all that feedback, putting it together in the project. And regarding the pilot project for speed cameras on Hollywood Boulevard, there are discussions now about how to deal with that pilot. And they don't know yet whether they're going to be cited or what the rollout, when the rollout is going to start. And they've been talking internally, and Vision Zero will have some role, but they just don't know exactly what that role will be. And they also don't know whether LAPD or LADOT will have the lead on the speed camera pilot.
Thank you. Karen?
On Venice Boulevard, in an area that curves between Arlington and Crenshaw. A couple of weeks ago, there were some tragedies. 3 different pedestrians were killed right near a charter school that's at that curve in Venice. And there was an action and a vigil and march for street safety improvements, and Heather Hutt was there and announced that there's going to be a new traffic signal put in at one of the places where it was just a crosswalk with blinking lights. No.
Yeah, thank you. Michael?
So a lot happening in City 5. Fairfax between Melrose and Willoughby is going to be repaved. And I think I've gotten them to reverse the parking and bike lane configuration. So we'll have a parking protected bike lane, at least between Melrose and Willoughby, which is the West Hollywood border. Melrose between Fairfax and Hayworth is being repaved. It's just one block. But Hayworth has a light, and that gets you to our slow street network and other things. So trying to get a 2-way cycle track on the north side of the street for that one block that would also connect to the Fairfax bike lanes. Also on Fairfax between Wilshire and Colgate, this is the heaviest lift. But trying to get bike lanes put in on Fairfax between Wilshire and Colgate. That would be a connection to the future Purple Line station. And it would also get you to Colgate, which you can kind of get to the Grove Drive and Campus City Park and a bunch of stuff there. I already mentioned Doheny. Trying to get the protected bike lanes at Semicenta extended. There's a 0.6 mile gap through Carthay Circle right now between Fairfax and Wilshire. So trying to get that funding allocated next fiscal year for surfacing and the protected bike lanes put in. I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but there's actually a project that's probably going to happen soon that I got the ball rolling under Peretz, of all people, to protect the bike lanes on Santa Monica Boulevard between Beverly Hills and Sepulveda, basically the 405. There's enough room on Santa Monica Boulevard to add a buffer and protection without removing it, just narrowing the lanes. So that's just scraping up some paint, putting down some new paint, and that's actually in a fairly advanced stage of DOT, and maybe next year that could happen. And last, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we're trying to get a feasibility study done to add a bike path on Sepulveda Creek. It would connect to Biona Creek and then go into CD5 and get you pretty close to the Rancho Park Expo Line station. Right now, it's just a dirt service road.
Okay.
The first 3 I mentioned should happen this fiscal year, meaning by June, by July.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I had my prospective alternate here today. Alex, I think everybody might have met him. seen him. And he's a planner. He works with Pierce, what is it? Baron Pierce, yeah. We spoke with him, right? And he's really, he's quite, he went to USC and has become a planner. And Louis Leva was here. He's our mobility rep, which is the first time I think way back in the day, I had a rep come here from CD1. This is the first time in years. So I'm really inspired, to get things done. I'm not sure about what what you're talking about, because I was pushing Venice all the way to downtown. And they were interested in that thought, and I have spoken with the Loyola High School, and they have a lot of, that's in CD1, and they have a lot of bicyclists that use Venice, and they're interested in that idea as well. So, I would like to talk to you a little bit more about what's going on with LADOT, and
Sure.
I haven't heard that, because Louis knows about Venice now. He did the cyclovia along Venice, and so he knows the potential of it, over to Hoover, or over to downtown, actually. He said they go all the way down, CD1 goes all the way down to the 110 or beyond, or Figs, goes down to Figs.
Yeah, the challenge is, getting something that Metro looks.
Oh, the
Yeah.
bus, yeah, you did mention the bus, so
That's
I
the
will,
challenge.
I'm gonna talk, I know
Um,
one guy there, I'll talk.
So we can.
Operations, yeah,
Off-
anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's where I am. I'm really excited about getting this area fixed, so,
Great, thank you.
that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Janice.
I had Jeff here, so I'll
Awesome.
be following up
Yeah,
with
yeah,
him
I do.
on what he talked about tonight and other things related to my local council district. That's all I have.
Thank you. Carino, as a departing or former, anything you wanted to report out?
Do you have to depart?
Well, I don't know what's.
We heard you didn't.
Well,
I
they'll
heard
work you
rumors.
through it.
Well, I'm trying to figure things out
Good,
as
okay.
as
You're-
far as my personal life goes, but. As far as what I'm interested is sort of what's gonna happen in Vanna is when you have 3 infrastructure transportation projects that are gonna occur in the San Fernando Valley. And also trying to put a bike lane along Van Nuys Boulevard is a task, and I hope that like in the future that you guys get involved and try to push the sort of the valley more have bike lanes and I just feel like the area is going to change enormously just because of those projects and trying to add multi-mobility in an area. So it's exciting, but it's very challenging at this point. I'm happy that Lionel's with me because we could work together as far as teamwork when we're both pushing for more equitable transportation for our area.
Thank you. And Glenn, you get to take it home.
Yeah, the light rail project at Van Nuys Boulevard is definitely, I hope I live long enough to see it in operation. I wanted to comment on 2 things. Number one, the Sepulveda Basin, initiated by former council member Nuri Martinez, a vision plan to relook at the basin, and it's mostly in CD6, but partially in CD4. And as it's related to this group, they're looking at in this planning process how to get the LA River bicycle path from one side, the west side of the Sepulveda Basin, over the dam to the east side to Sepulveda Boulevard. And so they're having a community meeting this Thursday to basically announce their final.
Is this the dog park controversy one?
That is a footnote of the entire, dog park is in the Sepulveda Basin, so yes. The dog park folks are, but as far as the bike path project and the planning, that particular segment is already been designed, already been funded. However, the master plan or the visioning plan, it's part of that because there's folks who want to move the bike path from the north side of the river to the south side of the river. So that's that, yeah, so there's a whole discussion about that in terms of, but the important thing is if you want a continuous LA River bike path that goes from the headwaters in Canoga Park all the way down to downtown and beyond. You know, this has been problematic. So I just want to let folks know that if you're interested, Thursday, December 7th, at the Encino Community Center, they're having their release of their final version. They will have to go to an EIR process, so it's not like a done deal. But it's much bigger than, in fact, it's also driven by the Olympics. It's potential, I think there's 3 or 4 facilities being proposed. So it's bigger than that. So that's number one.
How many more do you have? No.
Just one more. The other is Reseda Boulevard. So that's the project we've been hearing about for a number of years, from Victory Boulevard up to Parthenia Street. It crosses from CD3 into CD12. And I've been monitoring it simply because I'm on that street and seeing what's happening. It is not just bikes, it's the transit boulevards, et cetera, but tree planting, et cetera. So it's progressing and it's gonna get finished up within the next number of months next year. But what's interesting is that I don't know if this is true in the rest of the city, but I have the Valley drivers don't know how to drive. Because they've already damaged the railings that are on the bus islands in numerous places. They've just, their vehicles has run into them, so.
The bollards?
No, no, these are the metal railings to keep the folks waiting for a bus, not, you know, to the railings to get there.
Thank God they're metal.
They're metal, so the damage is being done to the vehicles. Anyway, just seeing the whole thing. And this is, the project's still under construction, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all evolves. And so it's a $20+ million project. And it's just interesting to see how it's all. But I hope the city will look at lessons learned going forward. Again, I'm not saying this is true in every part of the city, but it could be that when you look and see what's happening, you know, with the investments that they've made and the damage that's been done and still under construction, you know, maybe there's other ways to do some of the things. So
Thank you. Congratulations to all of us for achieving quorum. Hopefully this is the start of us doing this more often. This meeting went a little bit long in terms of having special guests, but goal is to hour and a half. But I think the exception of having 2 city employees and prominent well-positioned was worth the extra time required. So thank you all. Karen, do you want to close out the meeting in memory of the tragedy in your area?
There've also been cyclists killed.
You have information that you, yeah.
George is the one that's-
can we take the names that we did at the subcommittee and just
Yeah.
say we do that? Yeah, because we identified them.
Okay.
Oh, he's got it.
Okay.
The Robert George, Trino Lopez was the cyclist hit and run crash victim on Van Nuys. And then the 3 pedestrians on Venice and the 4 Pepperdine students in Malibu.
And we stand adjourned. Thank you all.